overall for his record since he did join in week 2. But 100 Thieves, now that they're going to be picking this up, have already demonstrated they are looking to play more of a front-to-back style of composition, right? You do not pick Azir and say, hey, we're going to go with a bunch of divers after this. We are going to make sure we can protect this Azir. And I love the fact that FlyQuest, they say, hey, one of the best people you can play in order to make sure to keep your Azir alive is this Moakai. We're going to take that away from you and also make your front-to-back even harder.
And it's a champion that Spica has played plenty of, right? When we think back to spring, we think back to especially that Mimi, Mumu, Malphite, demonic embrace nonsense. He really started picking it up there, and even after that got nerfed, he's still been a prolific player of the champions. So that gets locked in. The Renekton picked up for impact, just as per usual, that evergreen staple in the top lane. They don't feel bad about locking it in. Pretty safe against most matchups.
And it has been something that Impact has had a lot of success on relatively recently, just because of the way that he creates so much pressure up in the top side, right? As a weak side Renekton, he is able to get some of the most powerful top lanes. He's consistently going to be looking for a lot of these flanks. But just as we saw in last game when the Renekton was played by Hunter, we saw the response of Poppy. It's going to be going over to Someday once again. But a lot of people have been picking this, but this is not the easiest matchup in the world to play for the Poppy. Well, yes, you stop a lot of the all-in attempts that Renekton can go for. You're a mana champion. That means that Renekton will slowly grind you down. The longer he can keep you in lane, the longer the advantage will grow.
Well, we've got the Varus picked up here for DoubleLift. I always enjoy seeing players who know how to play to their limits and play aggressively on this champion, because I think Varus is one of those marksmen where if somebody's bad at Varus, he just kind of seems like a caster minion. But if somebody's really good at him, he can seem borderline cheat code. So I'm excited to see DoubleLift on that one this game. FlyQuest locking in the Tristana. I feel like this is probably mid lane Trist. We've seen Vicla play it a few times already. So probably going to look towards some potential bot lane bans here in the second half for 100 Thieves.
And he also got one of his wins on the Tristana as well last week. But as we start looking at this, it is important to remember again that this is patch 13.13. This is no longer going to be the same kind of AP Varus that has been dominating the meta recently. The static shift no longer has the AP ratio that you really need for the big burst. And so while DoubleLift can still go for a lot of the AP because the build is still viable, it's not going to be having the same kind of burst going up against the Moakai, going up against the Renekton. And it really signifies that 100 Thieves a little bit more focused on either going for the full range and the lethality or more of an on-hit crit style build to burst through all of these tanks.
Nautilus banned out, Cassante banned out, no copy pasta, sorry Twitch chat, we're gonna have to wait for the next one on this one, as Heimerdinger also banned away by FlyQuest, respecting the Heimer and Varus bot lane combo that just completely makes every matchup miserable to play against.
Miserable. And as we start looking at it, right, one of the big things that FlyQuest is going to need to do is I want to find one more diver, one more engage tool coming out from the side of FlyQuest, mostly likely coming out from Vulcan, to ensure that they have the tools to come out a different angle, to ensure the steadfast presence is not going to be able to stop everyone. That's part of why the Nautilus has already been taken off. That's part of why the Silas has already been taken off, to put Vicla off of one of his divers.
So if we're talking about divers, Rell immediately comes to mind.
Oh yeah.
What is one of the biggest counters to Rell? It's Alistar. I think 100 Thieves is predicting Rell, and then if we take Alistar, they could take Silas, because Silas loves Alistar's ulti.
Yeah.
Just thinking ahead towards that. We aren't going to see a Rell locked in. We're going to see the Aphelios instead. It's Malphite in the top lane for Someday. That means Closer's piloting that Poppy through the jungle.
Yeah, and the Malphite into the Renekton, we have been seeing this become more and more popular, especially when you go with the press the attack style build. You just put a bunch of points in W, and you don't even have to put any points in Q either because of how much mana it takes up. You build up some armor and you slowly beat the Renekton to death as the game goes long. But this is a big tool for 100 Thieves. They are now no longer relying on Quid to go in and just start the fight by throwing himself at the enemy team. You're no longer relying on DoubleLift to pick off a squishy member with his ultimate. Now you can just throw something at the enemy team like a Pokemon. It's Graveler, I choose you. You just make sure you lock down all of these squishy marksmen in the backside.
You throw in the Malphite, you throw in the Rell on top of it, man. It's scary stuff. And hey, I actually feel kind of smart on this one because it's Rell, it's Alistar pick as the counter pick. It happened the opposite direction from what I was expecting, but that is the matchup we're going to get here in the bottom lane. Two very tanky supports with a lot of engage potential.
And because these supports kind of neutralize each other, because the Alistar is mostly there to use a headbutt every single time Rell is going to be jumping in, puts a lot more pressure on these two marksmen. Prince was one of the players that was lauded as one of the best imports we've seen in North America for a long time. And DoubleLift, the GOAT, the guy who has been around for so long, who is still at the top of the game, he's on a good matchup. he actually has the range to deal with Prince in ways that Prince will not be able to echo, but Prince has a bit more playmaking potential in the lane in conjunction with Vulcan.
Who won the
rip for our second game of the day? I'm going to be looking at this Malphite in particular. We have seen that a lot of these top lanes between Impact and Someday are determined by the long game. You're going to be going for a lot of pressure up here in the top side of the map. Impact trying to push Someday around, and as we talked about with the Poppy, this Renekton is also a mana-less champion. This Renekton is going to be pushing Someday around, and if he can keep Someday in lane, if he can force Someday to stay when his mana pool is low, that's how Impact can actually find the longest version of his advantage. But if he gets to level 9, Someday's doing totally fine. He's got some armor. Well, Impact's going to struggle for the rest of the game.
And man, one way that you can make top laners struggle is some early support roams. Both Alistar and Rell are excellent at roaming early. Leave your AD carry bottom, just trust him to farm and get out there and make plays. They're both taking the ignite. This is one of my favorite things about having an engaged support meta over a peel support meta is just the aggression that you can see all over the map early on in the game. Yeah. I love the double ignites here. Double cleanse from both of these immobile marksmen as Vicla trades very aggressively onto Quid nice and early here, but not so early that Quid would have the opportunity to go back and heal on the fountain and negate it. So a nice bit of an advantage here for Vicla right as minions collide.
And crucially, it also gets out the double soldiers from Azir really early on. Because it's on that ammo system, that takes a long time to come back online, and it really hurts a lot of Quid's ability to exert pressure in the lane. It allows Vicla to trade again relatively early in the lane. But as we start looking at the junglers, they are going for very different paths. Spica did his own Raptors, and has now moved towards the bottom half of the map, whereas on the other side, Closer, I mean, I said different, he's doing the exact same thing. He got Raptors, he's going to his own blue.
Yeah, but the difference is FlyQuest has vision on it. Observers let us see that that ward was placed right down there nice and early on. They're going to see Closer making this path, but starting the blue late enough that you should be able to predict that he was starting at one of those other camps a bit further away, most likely the chickens. Now, bottom side, Vulcan and Prince, they're just yielding this early control to DoubleLift and Busio. Busio having control over the brush, DoubleLift on that Varus. They don't want to scrap early, end up losing some big trade that forces them to concede all lane pressure. And we'll see if we get the junglers involved either as early or as frequently in bot lane as we did in a previous game. Because like you said, man, it was a...
it's a tri-lane, both sides.
Yeah, it was a tri-lane for all intents and purposes.
So here as we look at it, right, Spica is actually pathing away. You see that he's flipped his jungle path. He's going to be going up towards the red buff, moving towards the top half of the map. Nobody coming down to help out Prince and Vulcan for now. But as we look across the map, Impact doing a good job pushing up there. But the biggest thing I'm actually worried about is here in the mid lane, right? Vicla had the wave pushing back towards him just a moment ago, but he hasn't actually used the opportunity to try and do any damage to Quid. He's got to jump on top of it.
Just going to push out right now, playing it nice and safe. FlyQuest, the big thing I'm looking for.
There it is.
There it is. Jump in. Shoot him. Ah, shoot him again.
Oh.
Shoot him again.
Bang. Pew.
All right, there we go. That's a real good trade. Quid down to 100 HP, has to pop that potion. Yeah. But no, FlyQuest getting those 3 wins last week, not only is it important because, you know, you need to make sure you don't fall so far behind that making it into playoffs just becomes a stressful exercise in itself, but just the things that it can do to boost your mental, to boost the sense of teamwork and camaraderie. Hey, we do have what it takes to get these wins. We do have what it takes to get it done. I'm really looking forward to seeing how much confidence these guys can play with, especially when I look at a player like Vulcan, you know, brought into this team. You're thinking, hey, one of the best supports in the league, brought onto a team that was looking amazing in the early parts of spring. This has got to be a recipe for success. They start out 0-6, but I look at Vulcan as the kind of guy who wants to talk smack on Twitter. He wants to be in the zone. And so if you've got that extra confidence on a player like that, I'm excited to see what it can do for their playmaking.
As a huge Ayla fan, I felt very vindicated that Ayla was not the problem, right? But we are still seeing the FlyQuest as they are starting to bounce back. It is how much will they be able to bounce back? Closer actually coming into the mid lane, trying to make sure that Quid can farm up. But one of the things that we were always looking at with FlyQuest previously was, is Vicla going to get caught out in some of these early ganks? We have seen him go down just so many of them. You were asking if Closer is going to be able to step up in this one. Goes for a first gank, get some pressure, alleviate some of the problems that Quid was having, but it doesn't actually solve any of their problems. Vicla can still do the exact same thing when he comes back from the back.
And you were talking a little bit during Champ Select about how Malphite can try these builds where he gets aggressive with Renekton and just smacks him around in an auto-attack battle some. But here early on in the lane, at least, Impact is running the show up in the top lane. Does have a nice CS advantage right now, but plenty of minions, I'm assuming, underneath the tower for Someday to try to collect those. There you go. Sort of alleviated the issue, but it's a nice little lead for Impact early on here.
And that's what we were looking at, right? Until Someday is able to get his back off, teleport back with a couple of cloth armors or maybe a bramble vest, it's going to be pretty good for impact because of how expensive Someday's spells actually are. We should expect a lead to start it off. It's all about when the tide turns. But we've seen this coming out a couple of times, right? DoubleLift moves away, and Busio just trying to hold the wave, and it is preventing Prince and Vulcan from actually going for a reset. They are continuously keeping these guys down here in the bottom lane by threatening to go for a freeze, and because there has been vision, now Spica has to come down in order to try and make sure that Closer is not here for a game.
Exactly. Throw the sapling into the brush, make sure the Poppy's not coming down, and when you see that he's not there, now it's FlyQuest looking to make a move, potentially punish this 100 Thieves freeze angle. DoubleLift is low, and Prince is paid. It's first blood over to Aphelios as FlyQuest disengages. Nobody's even close to dead, and they got Someday's TP too. Spica backing away there. Bramble Smash means Busio and Someday can't chase it any further. That was just good for FlyQuest.
That was fantastic. And up in the top lane, right, we were asking at what point does Someday have an opportunity to turn around the top lane? Well, at this rate, the answer might be never. He's losing a bunch of plates. Impact already going to be getting his first back off after getting effectively a kill and a half.
Yeah, Someday teleported to bottom straight from lane. You can see his inventory. It's Dorian's Shield and Cookie. He didn't get to buy anything, so he just shows up as, you know, level 1 poor man Malphite, and it does not have any consequence there for FlyQuest, who made this play nice and easy.
And honestly, the fact that they go for this and they try and get the cleanse out early, the Ignite gets its full duration. Spica only takes turret shots while he has his Aftershock up. A great dive coming through from FlyQuest, absolutely zero risk taken, and we got to see that some of the freezes that DoubleLift and Busio were going for ends up punishing them a little bit. Great reactive play from the rest of FlyQuest to bring Spica down, one of our greatest strugglers that we've had.
Spica on to Moakai, always looking to set up the team here as Busio and Vulcan roaming around here in the bottom side river, gonna find each other. Shattering Strike with a nice little stun on it after the Rell mini rework, makes it so Busio can just force Vulcan away from there. AD carries are in Farm Town, bottom lane. They're both happy enough with that situation. But Someday on the Malphite at least has the Bomby Cinder now, but Iron Spike Whip plus extra components for impact. He's loving the state of the lane.
He's gonna be going out and getting some fruit too, right? We were complaining about only the one cookie coming out for Someday, but Impact, you know, like I'll go get some watermelon at the same time. And FlyQuest in the mid lane, because of the ganks that Closer have alleviating a lot of the pressure, Quid has really bounced back in the lane. Vicla, we see going for this early Vampiric Scepter, will alleviate a lot of the auto attacks that Quid can put down on his side, but also means that his aggression is severely mitigated. He spent so much of that gold on lifesteal. That is not an offensive stat. You're not going to be using it to get your own damage in at all. And it feels as though some of the aggression that Vicla missed out on is going to come back to bite them.
Well, Prince and Vulcan are just going to keep shoving this wave in. If DoubleLift and Busio want to keep freezing it, fine, but I would expect Prince and Vulcan in particular to try to make plays elsewhere if that happens. Closer now coming down here into the bot lane, but Spica's doing the same. If Prince and Vulcan could buy enough time for Closer to show his face, maybe they could bait their opponents in. Spica going to set up the sapling in the brush. As Vicla engages onto Quid, he gets out the Emperor's Divide. That's good enough for now, because they could set up a play with Spica to follow.
And you can see there's not a lot of damage coming out from Vicla at all with Vampiric Scepter. It is the Emperor's Divide like you called out, but here comes Closer into the mid lane. We've seen this gank so many different times as people come around this corner and they will knock Vicla towards Quid in just a second. You gotta know it's coming.
The important thing to remember is Tristana can use Buster Shot to get rid of Poppy just like that, and then Poppy can't stop your jump, so Tristana can disengage. It's one of the unique advantages Tristana has as a champion with a dash that has to play against Poppy. You don't have to jump away, you just yeet him.
Exactly. You don't have to do the moving. Get everybody else. But it's going to be a play going over to Quid. This matchup is supposed to be really rough for Quid, and the fact that this mid-jungle duo for 100 Thieves is overpowering Vicla is going to help them out quite a bit. We had a lot of questions when Quid first came in, right? There's a whole Quid game, like who's going to get the tug of war. This is definitely one where he seems to be topping people over the edge. Now he just needs to take the advantage he's already built up and showcase it on the rest of the map, because both sides are bringing a ton of people to the side.
Rift Herald being taken here by 100 Thieves. Spica wants to step up. Okay, never mind.
All right.
Goodbye. It's not like he really could have done anything except try a cheeky smite steal anyway, and even if he does, I don't think he could get the eyeball. They just didn't have enough dudes nearby, so FlyQuest losing out on the Eye of the Herald. 100 Thieves is going to have full plate timer to drop that one, decide where they want to use it. You can see no plates have been taken anywhere except that one in the mid lane that the Thieves have been able to acquire. Meanwhile, over on FlyQuest side, it's mid and bot lane that are still full plates standing, but top side only 2 left after Impact's dominance in the laning phase here.
Yeah, and you can see that Impact walking back in the lane with a whole gourd drinker is going to be
man.
beating up on Someday until Someday can get opportunity to back and spend his gold as well. But Clayton, we're looking at another really late dragon. I guess people just don't really like the Chemtech. Turns out that getting a bunch of stats when you have already lost the fight is not exactly the most valuable thing. But FlyQuest are like, well, if you're not going to do it, I guess we should pick something up.
It's good for like 1v9 TikTok montages, I guess.
True.
But that's probably about it as the dragon will finally go over to FlyQuest. You pointed it out, Impact has the Gore Drinker completed. Someday's still got Bomby Cinder, so that top lane 1v1 is going to feel awful for poor old Malphite here for quite a while. Also still needs to wait a little bit longer before that teleport becomes ready to cast again. We are past 10 minutes, so both of those teleports are unleashed, which is a massive advantage for FlyQuest, because if both these guys are showing up to a team fight, I am deathly scared of the alligator. Malphite, not so much.
No, not right now. But as you said, right, you just got to make sure your R key is working, and then you should be able to do something in these fights. But once again, somebody's backstopped up on the top side, and there's a potential dive brewing.
Oh, Vicla tried to jump in. He gets shuffled back towards the turret, but not quite in range to take the turret shot. Flash is back on the other side of the Emperor's Divide. Anyway, it's flash for flash traded here in the mid lane. Both of the laners low, but it's Quid that's slightly lower.
Yeah, we've needed this. This is what we need to see Vicla do way earlier on. You take these aggressive trades, put your opponent really low, and use your lifesteal to get back up. That's the first time we've seen him really try and go for one of these aggressive plays since Quid's ultimate was last up. You gotta be a little bit faster with that kind of cadence. And 100 Thieves, I mean, even though they are down a little bit because the top lane is bleeding, because the bottom lane dive did go well, 100 Thieves are technically playing from a deficit, but as I said before, their composition is so straightforward to play, right? You don't have to do anything fancy. You just go for some of these picks, you just throw out some ultimates, and you catch everybody on the map. And I'm going to expect that the next dragon is not one that 100 Thieves is going to try and contest, but Dragon 3, they're gonna for sure.
Well, that next one will be a Mountain Drake. Always feels nice to have some of those extra defense.
Already got one on
for
your
the
team
front liners. Yeah. We already got one of those guys. And hey, he's at least got a full item completed now.
Woohoo!
So that's going to help a ton, at least in this 1v1 against the Renekton. You can see the lane assignments getting shook up here a little bit, as it will be DoubleLift sent up into the top side there. Busio shadowing behind him, trying to drop down some vision, I would assume, in the enemy jungle, just making sure he gets that ward placement right so it goes in the brush. But unfortunately, FlyQuest is immediately ready to just sweep it away. Spica, Vulcan, and Impact all moving up in here. DoubleLift walking down through the river over top of a ward, but there's nobody close enough on FlyQuest to get much of a punish there. They're just happy to have Vicla putting some damage into the bottom lane turret at the same time. Going to pick up a couple of plates here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a Tristana Demolition Derby. You always get that. You get the couple Yordles coming through. There seems to be a lot of similarities, right? You got some themes. You got Ziggs, Tristana. Whenever you leave them alone, oh, your turret's going to go bye-bye. Now we got Poppy and Tristana, the same thing, right? Just as you're talking about Vicla knocking away Closer. Closer did it to Spica. But it is going to be 100 Thieves, right? Someday, he doesn't win that matchup going up against the Croc, but he does against this little Yordle. They're not on a full item, and he can be very aggressive, just walking and slapping her around.
Rift Herald summoned up mid lane. They wanted to make sure they got the value out of that one, get the plates before they fall. So that's FlyQuest, not having to worry about that anymore. Still 2 minutes away from the Drake spawning. Everybody just no real pressure to make a ton of moves from either side. They're kind of just content farming it out. Yeah.
And so as we start looking at this one of the big things that I was thinking about before this game actually started is FlyQuest, we are expecting that the first half of the split was not indicative of what we're actually looking at. You know, Emily Rand doing a lot of coin flips. People have been looking like, how likely are they to actually start picking up a bunch of wins? This is a team that had a ton of first and second All-Pros going into spring. After they come out, they go into summer. And, you know, they trade Ayla for Vulcan, who is generally considered one of the best supports that North America has produced. And now, I mean, they're still looking for a spot to try and take this lead and actually build it up. And it's got to come later in the game at this point. You're looking at Tristana and Aphelios, neither of whom are on 2 or 3 items. They don't have the damage to punch through Malphite, and they will really need to get to their 3rd item before they're ready to do so.
Vicla going in, but a nice shuffle from Quid knocks him back into the turret. Vicla just sends him a freebie. Quid outplays him and slays him, baby. The Azir just said, what are you doing? Shuffles him back into the turret for free money.
I mean, we basically saw that happen before, but this time the difference is Vicla doesn't have flash. He tried to do that in the mid lane, and he wasn't able to get anything done. That's so much pressure now on the map for 100 Thieves. As Someday, he's got to run, but he's fast.
Run away, Someday. Get out of there. Okay, Impact popped the Dominus. Not a whole lot of value to be found, really. Busio wants to get Prince here, but nice use of the Gale Force to escape Shattering Strike. Make sure there's no CC combo to follow that up.
I said that I was not expecting 100 Thieves to really contest for this second dragon, but that's a lot of buttons. Impact no longer has ultimate. Vicla has no ultimate. There's no Gale Force on Prince, and someday he saved his. I actually think this is a really playable objective for them all of a sudden. That's part of why they're already moving down. Someday as a teleport, he's going to be able to spend all the gold and come right on back. It spawns in about 10 seconds, but FlyQuest are on the other side of the map.
Man, that Tristana death felt really bad for Vicla out there in the top lane. He's down 30 farm against the Azir now. He's got the completed item, at least in the Kraken Slayer, but you know as soon as Quid goes back and shops, he should be able to complete his first as well. There it is, Nashor's Tooth, just for some extra DPS. As the top lane tier 1 turret will fall. It's what you said, when Tristana's left alone with a turret, she's going to take the thing out. Impact at least gets his Demo proc on the bottom lane tier 1, but now he's stuck around a little bit too long. There is no Dominus. Chains of Corruption fly out from DoubleLift. They tag the enemy top laner. Impact is not long for this world. That last arrow is going to find him, and DoubleLift gets paid. Really
clean coming up from 100 Thieves. Great CC layering from DoubleLift and Busio, and I love the fact that they give somebody, you know, a little tap there, right? Just making sure he gets a little bit of gold, because this top lane has not been easy for him so far. 100 Thieves, they walk away with a kill in the top lane, the solo kill from Quid. They get a kill down in the bot lane. They also get the dragon, and suddenly this composition that's super straightforward, you know they can just line up and go for fights, because FlyQuest engage is almost entirely put on Vulcan at this point, and he has not had an opportunity to really strut his stuff.
Spica firing off Nature's Wrath. Vulcan right beside him. Closer wants to get rid of one of them. He knocks away the Moakai. Impact now looking for a little revenge here in the bottom lane. Dominus is ready to go this time, and DoubleLift is gone. Impact picks up the kill.
Full commit from FlyQuest will get them a kill down there, and Vicla down here. Demolition Derby ready to go. We got a bunch of big beefy boys ready to go underneath the turret against whoever. 100 Thieves is still around. But it looks like it might just be the kill and the turret coming out for FlyQuest. They are only recouping some of the lead they had for themselves earlier on. I'm starting to be a little bit worried. I was expecting 100 Thieves before this game to actually kind of drop it. I was expecting FlyQuest, all the momentum that they had built up might be enough. And the player that we always put the pressure on FlyQuest on is their AD carry. Prince comes in, had so many opportunities last spring to pop up, has started seeing shades once again of the exact same player doing everything in his power to go aggressive in these fights. And based on the way that we've seen Vicla play, I'm putting even more pressure on Prince. He's got to step forward. He's got to get on top of DoubleLift with those good guns to take him down.
I mean, hopefully Vicla can stay in the side lanes and get some more work done there with the Tristana just constantly pushing on that, because I do have to call his decision-making into question a little bit on this champion in particular. Tristana's one of those champs that you can have really good Tristana plays, really good Tristana all-ins.
And you can have the ones we saw this game.
Yeah, or you can have ones that don't go so great. It's a one-way ticket unless you have the right timing and you get that reset to get back out. Now, 100 Thieves are very happy to have that turret still standing. No more gold over to FlyQuest, but as soon as FlyQuest get any control over the mid lane, it is a single auto attack from pretty much anybody to knock the last of the HP down. There is nothing to fight over in terms of neutral objectives right now, so we'll see where the next scrap is going to be. Again, both these teams have been pretty content playing this as a slower paced game. 18.5 minutes in, only 2 kills for either side. So I don't expect anybody to just be rushing into the that guy has a different colored health bar, let's fight him type of mentality anytime soon.
Yeah, it definitely isn't Pokemon. You don't need to lock eyes and immediately fight. This is League of Legends. As we start looking at it, I feel as though we have a very similar theme this game to what we had last game here, Flowers. In game 1 of the day, we had the red side, the team that really needed to go for the flanks, that really needed to get fights started on their terms, whereas on the blue side, you have this team is like, well, yeah, you can come right on over. We're going to group up as 5, and we're not going to be contesting you in the side lanes nearly as well, because we are so much more confident in our ability to team fight. You got your Azir, you got your Varus. They're doing pretty well on these items, and you have these big tanks. But the Renekton's not going to be beating, the Malphite's not going to be beating Renekton, at least anytime quickly. And Quid is not going to be doing well against Vicla in the side lane unless Vicla chooses to go for another adventure under a turret.
Vicla just keeping on that farm train down here in bottom lane. Kraken Slayer is done for both him and the Aphelios now. The big difference is, of course, that is the second fully completed item for Prince, as he will be the first champion on the map to have 2 of those big ticket purchases all the way done. DoubleLift still working on his. You can see everybody else kind of telling the same story. Someday farming up, has closed that CS gap pretty meaningfully against Impact. Remember, he was down by 20 CS or so during some of the laning phase, but now just given the opportunity to exist in the side lane, he's doing all right. Quid versus Impact. Quid having that higher DPS item choice in the Nashor's Tooth compared to something that may be burstier means you don't want to stay in range of those soldiers if you're this top lane Renekton. You're either going to have to go all in or all out.
This is a much better lane assignment for 100 Thieves as well, right? You have the Azir, who's not really under threat by the Renekton. You have the Malphite, who we saw after the full bomb went off, barely just broke Sunday's shield. This is 100 Thieves with all kinds of pressure on the map, and we called out that we were expecting them to contest for the 3rd dragon of the game. This is going to be the tried and true 400 Thieves. They get their backs in now, about 40 seconds before the dragon actually spawns, and then they're going to be in a perfect spot to get to the dragon and actually go for this fight.
All right, boys, somebody give me some PvP here. I know we like to scale up. I know we're looking to, you know, make sure that we don't make any mistakes and all that, but we gotta practice some of these mechanics or something.
Yeah.
All right, somebody's gonna smack Vicla around a little bit. Nice, he engages. Vicla with a good buffer to get away from it nonetheless. He flashes out. Someday is gonna take that as a win. Doesn't want to flash after him, try to hard force anything too much here. But getting that flash, that's big.
That's big, and we got Quid teleporting into the mid lane as well. And FlyQuest, as they start posturing, they are in a better position for the dragon on the map. But now FlyQuest, without the flash onto Vicla, he doesn't have the damage coming through. And 100 Thieves, as they start to regroup, there's no way. I mean, they actually have the damage to do it, right? They actually have the damage to do the Baron with the Azir, but it's so dangerous going up against FlyQuest. And they're still waiting on Sunday's ultimate to come back up. They need to retake some priority here in the mid lane.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on somebody to make the call. I want somebody to call for some action here. FlyQuest grouped up everybody except for Prince. He'll be sent to the bottom lane. He'll pick up that Drake all on his own. Nobody from 100 Thieves is even anywhere in the neighborhood, so he's pretty confident to take this by himself. Closer will get rid of the last bit of the control ward there. You can see Prince just still working on the Hex Drake. Easy enough. As long as you've got the red gun, you can keep yourself perfectly topped off, take no real meaningful damage from the thing. So there you go, second Drake of the game for FlyQuest. Quid's at least gonna get something back here in the top side, take out that tier 1 turret, bring the gold lead back down below 1,000.
It's not PvP.
Yeah, we're in the same spot.
It's more PvE, Clayton.
It is.
Yeah, I know.
It's a lot of PvE, man.
I know that's what people want, but most people don't play jungler. In fact, only 20% of the player base is junglers. The rest of us are looking for the PvP. We're looking for some of the action coming through. 100 Thieves, I think they were actually really dissuaded from going for that fight because Sunday committed the ultimate onto Vicla earlier. They're like, well, we don't have any engage tools. We don't just want to let them start the fight on their terms. Also, we have really good range later on in the game, so if we can keep them further back, it doesn't matter how much damage they do if they can never apply 100 Thieves, just backing away a little bit, getting a little bit more gold onto their carries. But now they have 2 items on basically all of their players. I kind of want them to do a similar thing to what we were seeing TSM do, just rinse and repeat around the Baron, try and force FlyQuest away, deny them vision, because you do this objective really quickly.
FlyQuest gonna shove out some of that vision, just make sure that they're keeping control over this neutral territory. Still, I think FlyQuest is probably playing this more careful than you would expect them to play it, just because they know they threw away a lot of games in the first couple of weeks. You only, I mean, that's just the that's the long and short of it, right? Like you had a bunch of really crappy games, and you don't have a whole lot of time in a condensed schedule like this to make that time up. So if you truly think, hey, we can beat these guys, we just have to make sure we don't do anything goofy, then you're going to prioritize the minimization of mistakes. And now it's 100 Thieves, maybe catching Spica out. You kill that enemy jungler, you could be in a good spot here. They cannot quite find what they were looking for with the entire kill, but they'll get him low enough to start up the Baron at least. DoubleLift going to shoot that ward down. Scryer's Trinket is going to see Quid and Closer start this Baron attempt up now. Spica's alive, but he has no ulti, and he's got about 20% HP. FlyQuest thinking about it, but 100 Thieves are the ones doing it. Baron at 24 minutes.
Yeah, I felt like a very confused call coming out from FlyQuest as Spica does end up trying to recall as the rest of the fight is going on. Now Vicla also trying to get a reset off at the same time. 100 Thieves with the Red Bull Baron buff just going to be pushing up the mid lane, and they can play the NA ramp. They are the composition that has drafted more poke champs. They will absolutely just stand here and dare FlyQuest to go.
Someday goes in, a beautiful follow-up from the Magnet Storm of Busio. They instantly kill Prince, but Impact looks for the entrance off to the side. Oh no, man, that was not what FlyQuest needed. Vicla at least gets one, but he's gonna die in response. Someday lives with a bomb. optic come out? Yes, it will. It's a 2 for 3, making a 2 for 4. 100 Thieves might have just won the game.
Wow, 100 Thieves someday started that off. You just old people underneath the turret says, I don't care. We're not waiting for you. We're getting the start. They're going to be looking to hit the inhib as well. They're teleporting. What, is the game just over? It's only Vulcan that's alive.
Prince is up in 10. He's going to have to try to defend this. Quid does have the Emperor's Divide. Poppy ultimate just used as a threat. First Nexus turret dropped. Second
Prince
Nexus turret targeted. Prince coming back alive. 100 Thieves are not going to end the game just yet. They're going to err on the side of caution here. This game went from Resident Sleeper for 15 minutes up into a near pick on the enemy jungler, into a Baron, into almost ending right there.
Honestly, I get shades back to like Season 3 SKP, right? You just get one pick, and then you get another one, and then you get another one, and suddenly everything just snowballs into cascading end of the game. We almost got that 100 Thieves. They were willing to go underneath the turret for Prince. That might have been an opportunity for them to just clean it up right then and there. But like you said, no need to take that kind of risk when we just got all of this gold. Let's just go spend it. Let's just go use it. Make sure we can take another fight, because 100 Thieves with this big gold lead don't care that FlyQuest are on 2 dragons. One of them doesn't matter, and the Hextech dragon is cool, but it's not going to be winning you the game until you get the Hextech soul.
Yeah, FlyQuest, time is now working against them. These guys are not enjoying where this game went over the course of the past 2 or 3 minutes. And man, just nearly getting that pick onto Spica, forcing him back. FlyQuest not being ready for it. And this is one of the dangers where I'm talking about if you're FlyQuest and you don't feel pressured to make any plays or make any moves and you're fine just sitting back saying, hey, we're better, we can just scale this one out. As soon as you choosing not to decide is still making a choice.
Yes.
And so if you're saying, all right, we're just going to let this one go forward here, then 100 Thieves see the opportunity,
Yeah.
they make the move, they get rewarded for it, and now they're pushing down the bottom lane. They've got the Baroned up minions here for another 25 seconds. So they want to try to make as much use out of this Baron as they can. Once these minions go away, they're not going to get much more time. 15 seconds. That next wave is only going to get here right about as it expires, so...
But still,
They'll
even without the Baron, this is the perfect position for 100 Thieves to be in, right? You have Quid, you have DoubleLift, you got so much more range than anybody on FlyQuest. And yeah, Vicla tries to clear away, but he takes a quarter of his HP for it. And now 100 Thieves trying to boot people away.
Yeah, closer, just threatening that ulti. Again, as long as he walks up with that, the rest of FlyQuest knows that they cannot risk getting engaged on in what would be a 5v4 or even worse if that closer ulti connects. 100 Thieves also taking advantage of the extra power that Azir offers, being able to raise the Sun Disc behind them, pushing up further, playing and positioning aggressively in a way that FlyQuest can't defend their turrets from. It's now a 2-inhib game for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, 100 Thieves, they're going to be going back, getting another dragon for themselves as well, tying FlyQuest up in that one. And I know we started off this game, we did the whole thing with the little poppers. How high did FlyQuest pop off? Are they going to continue looking for it? But it doesn't look as though that's going to have anything. Gravity just too strong. Potential energy not lasting as long as they needed to. 100 Thieves, they're in such a dominant position at this point. They just move over towards the Baron. It spawns here in about 2 minutes, and they just wait for FlyQuest to do anything. And one of the big differences, you touched on this a little bit, Clayton, the difference between playing passively and defensively. FlyQuest were playing passively. You weren't doing anything to prevent these plays coming out from 100 Thieves and just let it happen without making a decision.
100 Thieves now, still not an insane amount of gold ahead. The gold lead feels like more than it is. I'm doing a jat here. It feels like they're further ahead than what the number would say, because 4,000 is nice, but FlyQuest just feels like they have been getting themselves beat to death over the past few minutes. And 100 Thieves ain't done yet.
Yeah.
Prince has to be careful. He's got to know he's the target here. Busio looking for any sort of an angle he might get, hanging out just to the south of this tier 2 in the jungle while everybody else pushes up as 4.
You always got to think of these games in terms of how many fights ahead is someone, right? And in this game, 100 Thieves is about 2 fights ahead. It's going to take about 2 fights for FlyQuest to put themselves in a position of even or better. And 100 Thieves, they know that. Someday it's just tanking up this turret in its entirety, and Spica knows that the one fight that they find needs to be something where they are determining how it actually happens. It's part of why he's been waiting on this side for so long, and here's the ultimate.
Nature's Grasp is ready to go. Closer using that Poppy ulti, but the engage is nice! Vulcan finds the damage, Busio's ready to counter with that cue with the Magnet Storm, and some danger to the back line. Vicla's already down. Impact pump of the stopwatch here with the front, trying to survive as 100 Thieves will slam the enemy croc. They will find a double kill on DoubleLift. And it's Spica and Prince, the only 2 still breathing.
You got Busio, but you still got DoubleLift and Quid just free firing from the back lane the entire time. Double teleports, one in the mid lane, one in the bot lane. They want to have both waves going through at the same time. These inhibitors are already down, and this should be the end of the game.
100 Thieves ready to send this one home. Closer's got the ulti. Spica's probably just gonna die anyway. Yup, they'll knock away Prince. They'll kill off Spica. 100 Thieves are ready to start the second round robin off right. Prince won't even stay alive. It's an ace and a win for 100 Thieves.
100 Thieves. We had a surging FlyQuest coming into this week, and it was shut down. Thieves versus trees. The Thieves are coming out on top, and honestly, a huge part of that was just the fact that Quid was outplaying Vicla in the mid lane over and over again. Every single time we saw Vicla try and jump in, Quid was like, that's cool. Hope you like my turret, because that's where you're going to be staying for a little while.
Yeah, I felt like we didn't get the pressure we needed out of the Tristana or the Renekton, both of those early picks. You